Okay, good afternoon, Coach Andersen. Pac-12 home opener this week against Washington. Your team coming off a bye. Talk about the game.
Uh, Obviously, a quality opponent. In my opinion, well deserving of the ranking and what they've done last year. Outstanding team. Well balanced with good players, offense, defense, special teams, without a doubt. There's a lot of people talk about the weapons that they have, on the offensive side of the ball and, quite frankly, on the defensive side of the ball and on special teams. To me, the group that needs to be talked about also is the defense and offensive lines. Very talented kids. They change the game, play the game the right way. They're big physical kids, and they do a nice job on the offensive line and the defensive line / outside linebackers. So it's a quality team. We're excited to prep for them. Obviously, we've had a couple practices last week, and we're back into it again today, and we'll get after it again tomorrow. So excited about the opportunity to come back home and play a football game. Kids are excited about that also.
Gary, given that things in practice, from talking to you and other coaches, sound like they've been going as according to plan, what's through 4 games been the most surprising thing that hasn't translated to game day, and what's the thing that needs the most immediate correction to be able to turn the season around?
Well, I think the biggest thing for us is to be able to play. You use the word consistent in the game of football, and that's important, but you can't be consistent if you are not making the proper decisions in critical moments throughout the football game, and that's definitely been lacking. A lot of times, if in simplest terms, I suppose, you would say it doesn't look like it's supposed to in critical scenarios and situations. And, we need to definitely coach that. The kids need to focus in on it. And, you need to make sure that the fundamentals, the techniques are all in those positions in that situation. But we need to put kids in position to make the right decisions at the moment when they need to make those right decisions. That will help us be able to stay on the field, in my opinion. That'll help us be able to get off the field. It'll allow us on special teams to gain an advantage in special teams scenarios and situations, and that has been disappointing in the first games. There's streaks where it looks very good, and then there's other times when it doesn't, and that needs to go away for us to be able to compete at a high level in which we're competing at a high level.
Gary, how was the timing of the bye week, and was it good? Did you get things done?
Yeah, bye week was good. I always say a bye week's good regardless of where it comes, but this was in a good spot. It was good recruiting for the coaches to be able to get out there. It was the first week of school for the kids, so that transition was clean. I thought that went very well for them, and they're back into kind of the flow of school now. So bye week, at the timing of it, was quality. It was a good time.
We saw Cassie, I believe, for the first time actually return kickoffs on a Washington State game. I know there was talk about whether he'd be a running back or a linebacker. Can you talk a little bit about assigning him a position, how those conversations went, and if that's a role you see him in as far as kickoff return in the future?
Well, he's back there because we think if he needs to catch it, he can catch it and he can get some yards. There's a guy back there that they kick to, and they did a nice job of kicking it. You can kick it to either guy, obviously. We expected to go to the other side in that situation with the way it was scouted out, but Cassie's very capable of catching the ball. He's done a nice job in that setting, in that situation, but he's a linebacker, but he's back there. The off returner for us is always a guy that is capable of returning. If we can gauge it, and I guess sometimes you're, excuse me, a little bit of a guesswork goes into it because they can't kick the ball either way, but he's capable if he needs to be. We'd rather get it in the other people's hands.
How's Daryl doing?
But he's a linebacker. So that's it, yeah. Yeah. Bobby Wagner could do anything, so we could have probably put our starting tailback and starting free safety. Might have been a pretty damn good quarterback too. So, and we played him in some different spots, but I don't know if I've ever had a linebacker be back there as the other returner, and Cassie has a unique skill set when it comes to that, I would say.
Daryl, stepping in just like last year and quick to pick up on all the things you need him to do?
Yeah, Daryl's done a good job, and it'll be vital to the success of the offense and how Daryl plays, and Connor's in this situation of getting himself ready to come in and play also as the backup now. So Daryl's excited about the opportunity. I think the kids have always believed in Daryl. Daryl's come in and done some really good things for him in games, and so these kids will rally and they'll go play. So Daryl's extremely excited for his senior year to be able to lead this team.
Did he look physically stronger in his throws at Washington State to you, Gary? I mean, he looked like he was healthy and moving well, and after last year's first game, he may never have been at that same optimum physical level.
Yeah, I don't know if he was or if he wasn't. As Daryl's such a competitor half the time, he's probably going to, if he is hurting, we'll do everything he can to squeeze it out of him, but he's going to go compete. But we all know in that first game he definitely got banged up a year ago, and he has seemed very, very good all through camp. He seemed healthy, especially as we got him through the middle of camp and towards the camp, and as we've gone through the season, he's been good. So, again, you got a young man that's a senior. He knows it's his last rodeo. He's very excited about this opportunity to hop in there and lead our offense.
Coach, when you mentioned Washington's underrated deep play on both lines, it looked like they wore out Colorado physically up front. Is that what jumps out in the film?
I don't want to use the word underrated. I just don't know if they've been talked about enough. And from what I see, I don't really see much out there as far as who's talking about who or what people are talking about. But, it's obviously a very gifted quarterback and very gifted receivers and runners and all the stuff that comes with it. But it looks on tape to me, those are very talented young men. But this crew did a great job of running the ball late. They popped a couple big ones in the run game. Defensively, they're going to line up, or they're going to say they're going to keep the box thinned out, and they're going to say, okay, our two big guys are going to take up 3 or maybe 4 of your guys, and they do a good job of it, and it's consistent, and they're very talented young men. The kids inside are special, and in my opinion, really, really talented players, and that they're able to do that. And I forget number 7's his name, but he is a very talented linebacker also, very, very talented, and he is able to run side to side with those big guys eating up the blocks. So they're quality players on the fronts.
When you deal with an opponent, a returner like Dante Pettis,
Mm-hmm.
do you have an overarching idea going in? Do you wait and see what field position is and so on, as far as trying to stay away from somebody that has 8 punt returns for touchdowns in his career?
Well, I think obviously no one's going to sit in here and say that we're just going to kick the ball right to him. We'll try to get it away from him as much as we can. He's a talented kid. Now, he's a big, long-levered kid that can cover distance too. So if you're going to get it away from him, it has to be a pretty good kick to get it away from the kid. So, we'll scheme it up. The key is to get the ball in the air. He is very, very, very calculated on his opportunities when they're going to come his way. And he's unselfish too. If it's not there, he's not going to force it, which is a really good thing out of that kid. So I think he makes some good decisions when he's back there. But he is no doubt special when it comes to returning those punts. He has a knack for it, and he's got some good people in front of him that are holding guys up on line scrimmage and giving him a couple creases. So ideally, you don't want him to have his hands on the ball, and if he does, you want him to wave his hand over his head before he catches it and gets it in his hands.
Noah has 2 catches in the last 2 games. I know Coach McGivern gave him a lot of credit for the Washington State game, what he did blocking-wise. Where's the balance with what you want from him between being a blocker, being a receiver, and what's the key to him getting going again in the passing game?
That's a good question, what the key is to get him going in the passing game. That would be a question for Kevin to get him into that spot and get him into that setting. I'd like Noah to be more of a factor in the throw game and catch some balls. I think he's definitely a weapon that we need to make sure we're doing our best to use. And we all know that we could definitely throw the ball better. So if Noah had a few catches every game, that'd be a great thing. I don't really have a balance of number of catches per game. I think anytime you start doing that with the receiver, that it can jump into their head, excuse me, guys, jump into their head in a bad way. So, we want him to catch footballs. He's a big target, and hopefully we can get that done this week a little bit.
Was this during this time off, and the time off isn't over with because you got until Saturday as far as dings.
Yeah.
Did some of the small stuff get healed up on some of these guys?
Injury-wise,
Yeah.
tweaks. I would sure think so. You know, they had Friday, Saturday, Sunday to get back. We're pretty clean in that area, really. I think we've done a good job of practicing the right way and being physical with them. You still have to practice, you know, good on good. You have to absolutely have to do that, and we've done that. Our kids practice pretty good in that setting, in that situation, and you know, we other than the serious ones that we have, I think our kids were in pretty good shape and ready to come back.
And if you're, during a bye week, if you're on the road, if you're in an airport or something, do you seek out the games on a Saturday, or just if it's an opponent, that's your next opponent?
To watch college football?
Yeah.
Yeah, I watch college football. Yeah. From wherever I'm at. The minute it starts till the last snap's over with, I'll watch every snap I possibly can. It's hard when, you know, the Pac-12's got 3 of those games going back and forth at night. I wish one of those games would have started at 10 in the morning, but it didn't.
Do you have interest in outside the league, or is it just
Absolutely.
in the league?
No, absolutely. Yeah, I'll watch. I don't care. If there's a 1964 Rose Bowl's on tonight at 10 o'clock, I'll probably watch it. So I'll assume I get home by that time.
Good.
At this point in the season and with the bye, what were you looking to improve on this week, and what were you focusing on?
Good question. You know, right now it's the I guess the coachy answer to that is the techniques and fundamentals, but there's a lot of truth to that. I think that there's also, from a mindset of the football team and where they're going and where we have to go and what we're looking for, is to make sure we continue to fight every single day, and that we remember that we're continually fighting for Beaver Nation. We're fighting for the family and our seniors that we represent when we decided to jump in this thing in January. And it's easy, I think, for youth to be able to lose that vision. It's easy for old guys to lose their vision too in that situation, this setting. And I always remember that it's, you know, this is a game that we expect to go out and get better. I don't believe we've represented ourselves the way that we should as a football team as a whole. And that's just not the wins and the losses. That's the overall package. And that is extremely frustrating to me, and we've talked about that. Not that it's frustrating to me, but the fact of the matter is we need to put a better product on the field, and from the get-go, and that's very, very hard to, you know, to deal with every single day, day in and day out. You want it to get better. You want to make sure you're doing all you can to help the kids make good decisions, because they don't want to go out there and make bad decisions. They don't want to go out there and, you know, not do things the way that we're coaching them to do. So that was a big topic of, hey, let's narrow this thing down a little bit. Let's make sure we're putting them in position to be able to be successful. Let's do work on the techniques and the fundamentals, but let's make sure as coaches we're giving them something that they can do and then coach them to do it. And I think that's imperative, because all the problems, there should be no finger pointing from coaches at this point. You know, it's easy to say this or say that as a coach, and I think those are cop-outs. These are our kids. We signed every one of them up, and we love the hell out of them. We're going to hug them up and we're going to push them, but we need to make sure we do all we can to put them in the right position. So that was the message to the coaches. And for the kids, you know, let's have a little fun. And yes, it's easy to say it's fun to win. It is. It's damn fun to win. There's no doubt about it. But this also needs to be able to be fun to play the game of football, which we all signed up to play. And we're going to make sure we have some fun doing it, and we're going to work like crazy to represent Beaver Nation and Oregon State the right way. Anything else?
And Coach, for yourself, if things haven't gone exactly the way you would have hoped early, but do you have, I mean, in the bye time, and are there people you reach out to, because you know you've been through fights and the process works? You have to, in any sense, get reminded of that by people who've seen you in settings where you have come through at adverse time. Yeah,
I don't really reach out to a bunch of other coaches. I got a pretty good coach at home that lets me know good and bad, and she'll coach me up pretty hard. But it is a good time to sit back and reflect and take a big deep breath. And there's no doubt about it. It is a time to sit back and look and see how I can help these kids get better, because that's really my only focus at the end of the day, is to help them get better. And in turn, I think I'm doing what's best for Oregon State and Beaver Nation. In turn, I think I'm doing what's best for the assistant coaches, but most importantly, what's best for the kids. And so I try to look at the whole package on, you know, offense, defense, and special teams. And I don't consider myself on the offense side of the ball to be this guru by any stretch of the imagination, nor on defense, but I will help where I can help, and obviously I feel I can help more on the defensive side. That's my background. And stick my nose a little bit in there on the special teams as much as we can. But more importantly, it's how are we going to get these kids to execute the way they need to execute, to look like a football team that is positioning itself to get better week in and week out and compete and find a way to get themselves in the games in the fourth quarter and execute the right way to have an opportunity to win. And that's the fight we're in. That's the battle we're in. I'm not hiding from that battle, and I never will. And I'm excited about getting up tomorrow and fighting again to help make them get better.
When it comes to the balance of working on all the technical aspects that you talked about and also trying to make it fun, does that have to come down from you? Does that have to come from the players? How do you strike that balance?
So I think it comes.
enjoyable?
I think a lot of that comes from me. If it's miserable in my mind and in my eyes and in my demeanor, it's probably going to be miserable for them. And I don't want it to be that way. And there's so many things to this game, and so I want these kids, tell them, hey, we got 8 guaranteed weeks together, or 8 games, 9 weeks that are guaranteed, and that's going to go fast. And from that point on, this team will never be the same. It won't be. You just can't sit back and say that it's going to be the same players and the same coaches and the same this. It's not going to be. And that's just the reality that we live in the world of coaching. And so let's do our best to make some memories that will put a smile on our face down the road. And but past that, we're never going to stop believing in hard coaching. Our kids understand that. I think they've reacted to that extremely well. But there has to be a care factor for young men who are in their position that they're in. I've been around staffs when things don't go your way, and all of a sudden it's, we got to start over and we got to recruit all these new kids and we got to do this and we don't listen to us and they won't do this. You do that, then I just don't think that's the essence of being a coach, and I don't think it's part of being a teacher. You have to accept responsibility and put it right back on you when things aren't going your way. And that's just my thought, and I think that's important as we continue to move forward.
A little bit of a different topic. Obviously, there was a bit of a confluence between politics and sports this weekend. I know you have a lot of former players in the NFL. Did anyone reach out to you about how to handle that situation? How do you handle that with your team going forward?
It is very, very interesting, and I suppose the easiest thing is to just shush your mouth, especially when you're in front of a microphone when it comes to those settings. But if our kids want to talk about it and communicate about it, there's absolutely no doubt that we would want to talk about it from a coaching staff or from a team standpoint. But there would be an educational standpoint, and people are going to make the decisions that they make as they go through time. So there's a stance that's out there, and I don't really see it because I saw a little bit last night on some highlights late at night. So I don't know exactly what's going on, but I know it's a big controversy, and it's we'll help our kids go through that if they want to talk about it, and then if we think we need to get together and talk about it as a team at some point, then we definitely would.
Coach, there was a big difference in number of carries for Ryan and just the running game and balance, and you talked about that before the bye, actually before the Cougar game. Was that Washington State game, because it's the last thing you have to draw from, was that about where you want things to be?
I want Ryan Nall to have a great year, and I want him to be a 1,000-yard-plus rusher. There's no doubt about it, and that's an important piece to this puzzle, and our ability to be able to move guys off the line of scrimmage or put ourselves in a position to be able to displace them. However we got to displace them to allow Ryan to have some creases is extremely important. How many carries is that a game? I don't have a certain number for that, but I think we have some quality running backs. Ryan needs to get spelled in there, and AP's done a tremendous job. You would like to have that balance to be able to run the ball and throw the ball. There's no doubt about it. We have not been consistent enough in that area. Again, it's a fact we're not hiding from. But we also haven't thrown the ball consistent enough. And so to be able to score points in this league and score enough points to be able to win games, you absolutely have to be able to throw it with some success and run it with some success, and you have to be able to finish drives. And I think one thing that could really help our offense right now is if we could find a way to be better in special teams. There's balls that are hitting the ground. There's in the punt game, there's some mistakes in those scenarios, those situations that, again, I'm not pointing a finger at one young man. I'm pointing a finger myself and the coaches. But we can help them. You know, maybe it's 10 yards, maybe it's 15 yards, whatever it may be. Those quality decisions that we need to make. And the kickoff return, I think, has been solid all year. We got a couple nice ones last week, and 10 more yards is big in the field position. So that would also help the offense go. But we want Big Nall to have his touches and have some success, and he deserves that.
Thank you, Coach.
Okay, thanks,
Good luck
guys.
this
Go
weekend.
Beavs.